here. It's such a beautiful area. It's such a beautiful setting. There are pictures all over the room that we're in. And there's crafts and artwork, and it's just really great. So definitely come to the Gallery Bistro in Port Moody, when you have time in that. So we've got quite the show for us today. We're going to be talking about our 5 years of being on air at CJSF for Sound Therapy Radio. So we have Mr. Jay Peachy, who is here controlling the computers and sitting on the side, and he says hello. He waves his hand. So yeah. Then we've got our co-host Megan. You want to come up here, Megan?
Here, Megan.
You can stand up here with me, so I'm not alone.
Oh boy, public speaking. I know. It never feels like this on the radio.
Not ever, no. And then we have another co-host of ours, Andy, who is here. Here, come and say hi, Andy.
Hello.
Grab a seat.
Yeah, you can go up and look next to Andy if you want.
Okay.
So today we're going to talk about 5 years of being on air, and we're going to share stories. I have my own stories. I'm sure Megan has her own stories. But I want to start with Jay. So Jay was a co-founder of Sound Therapy Radio about 5 years ago, starting it. And Jay, if you can come up here.
Oh, I get to come up.
Yeah, you have to come up.
You guys can right now.
There you go.
I'll stand over here.
Yeah, you can just stand there. There you go. So Jay, I want you to talk about the background that we've had with Sound Therapy Radio and how it started, and then we're going to go into talking about past, present, and future.
Oh, just like the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Just like the Ghost. Well, it is almost Christmas. It's at the end of November.
It's a month away.
It is.
You picked the 25th for a reason. Well, as I mentioned before, I'd gone through my own mental health struggles, and actually when I was really, really down, all I listened to was radio. That was my only really connection to the outside world. I was actually listening to a lot of Canucks games, which, if you're depressed, it's not really the best thing to listen to. And that was a really horrible season. But, I was living with Elaine. I don't know if some people here know who Elaine is, but I was renting a little back room there, and just wouldn't even get up, and all I would do is just like, sleep all day and eat, go back to sleep, and there's just a lot of weight in my life that I was taking on, and you just kind of feel paralyzed, right? Like, it's already Vancouver weather's like bad enough, but then when you start layering on your emotional baggage, it's like, it's so heavy. But the radio, it was just kind of a connection for me, and then a whole series of events, I won't get into it, but I woke up, and my dad he was sick and in the hospital, and I had to drive my mom, and I was forced to get out, and that was kind of a number of things. And the salmon, which is just down from Elaine's house, is another epiphany. So, but the radio show was just a creative outlet. It just allowed me to speak about it. I didn't have to people didn't have to see me. I could just kind of share the story and get it out there, and then be around artists. And I really wanted to tap into my art, because when I was in the hospital, I went to art therapy, and that really helped a lot. So that's kind of the the basis of it, and I just wanted to learn. I wanted to talk about what I went through, and I wanted to be with artists, and the radio show was just like a campfire to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, for myself, it's been a huge outlet. For all of the listeners at home, I probably say this every week, but I have a mental illness. It's called schizoaffective disorder. It's schizophrenia and bipolar. And this show is absolutely huge for me to get the word out there about mental illnesses or disabilities. It's people need to understand that it's not a big deal, that people do go through everything. 10, 15 years ago, they didn't even know what schizoaffective disorder was. And 15, 20 years ago, people thought, well, that person's just weird, And so now it's actually coming quite out there, and people are realizing that it's just another person. It's not a big deal. You do not have to treat them differently, and especially for me to talk about it with people. I talk about it with as many people as I can, is because I just want them to be aware of it and understand how to deal with it, how to deal with me. And then I bring other guests on the show who want to share their stories. I have one guest that she's been on the show about 3 times now, and every couple of months she'll message me on Facebook and say, Lauren, I need my healing time. I need to come on the show and I need to tell my stories. And absolutely amazing people. And we've had hundreds of shows and topics and different people coming on, and so many stories.
Yeah, probably like at least a couple hundred.
Oh yeah.
Because we had 100 episodes uploaded when I was in 2012.
Yeah.
So.
And I've been here for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Doing this, so yeah, it's got to be a couple hundred episodes.
Yeah, and it's a lot of medicine, I think, talking about it, right?
For sure.
And some people can't talk about it to their family members. They can't talk about it at work. And so the radio is a safe space because no one sees them. They can get their voice out. They don't even have to say their real name.
No.
They can go in crazy fish character.
I've heard some pretty weird names over the years, and I brought 2 16-year-old boys and a 14-year-old boy onto the show. And before the show, it's a big deal at that age being on the radio, right? And so before the show, I said, okay, so what do you want your names to be? And they're laughing and giggling and thinking, oh, what is it? So one name was Brian Griffin. The next name was Stewie Griffin. And then the third name was Herbert Griffin. They're all from Family Guy, if you recognize that at all. And so they absolutely thought that it was the funniest thing in the world to have these names. And I didn't clue in at first. And so we're going on, we're doing the interview, we were talking about what it was like for the teacher strike to be going on for them and them not being able to go into school for a month after they were supposed to. And so I really wanted to talk to them about that and get their input as the students. Because you hear all the time of what the parents are saying, but what are the students saying? So it was really interesting. So I would say, okay, Stewie, and I'd ask Stewie a question, he'd answer, oh, okay, Brian, asked him. As soon as I say Herbert, they burst out laughing. They're just laughing hysterically. They just think it's the funniest thing in the world. And so we went on a break, and I told them, I said, okay, guys, we need to tone it down. We can't be hysterically laughing while we're on air. And of course, I'd say Herbert again, and they'd burst out laughing. So at the end of that, I had to actually point to them. And I wouldn't say their name, I had to point to them for who was going to talk next, because they just couldn't stop laughing. So,
They played a joke on you.
They did. Oh, jeez, those kids.
So you got a little laughter therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I have a question for you.
Yes.
And then we'll give it back to these guys.
Yeah.
So, schizoaffective, it's a pretty large definition. And so what did that mean for you? And was there paranoia involved? Could you not get outside? Like parallel to that, say that life before to where you are now, and like the changes.
Completely different. Like absolutely different. I've had schizophrenia since I was a young child. I was suicidal by the age of 8. I tried to commit suicide for the first time. And then life went on and I grew up and, I'd always come home and I'd say, Mom, all the kids are being mean to me at school. Mom would say, no, they're not. She'd talk to the teachers, no, they're not. I didn't find out until, after I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed in 2006. And I didn't find out about schizophrenia until then. So now I can actually